and it goes through everyone. It says, "Vayhi kol nefesh yotzei yerech Yaakov shivim nefesh," with 70 people that came down to Mitzrayim. Yosef hoya b'Mitzrayim. So Chazal tell right away, what's it saying? Yosef was in Mitzrayim. I mean, what's irrelevant? Zong Chazal, Zok Rashi. Yosef and his children were all part of the counting of the 70. It's coming to tell us the gewaltige tzidkes of Yosef. Who Yosef haroia es tzoyin aviv? This is the same Yosef that was roya tzoyin aviv. That was the roya for the sheep of his father. Who Yosef shahoya b'Mitzrayim v'nasib melech, and this is the same Yosef that over the course of time he was in Mitzrayim and he became a king. Ba'oimeid b'tzidkoi. So when the pasuk says v'Yosef hoya b'Mitzrayim, it's telling us he was the same Yosef throughout. He was the same Yosef that was by his father, that he was roya tzoyin aviv, and he was the same Yosef even though he became a melech in Mitzrayim, he was oimeid b'tzidkoi. So the Pasha Tishtel is, it seems like from Rashi, was saying that even though he was in a low darga of being Ra'yə Tzayin Aviv in the beginning, and then he wasn't so tempted for Averis, and it was easy to be Yosef HaTzadik, he was still the same Yosef when he became a Melech on the whole Mitzrayim. Now there's a pasuk that says Vayishman Yeshurim Vayiva, that if a person has a lot of possessions, then there's a taiva that a person, there's a possibility that he's open to do averis. But it's not one of the milas that we would say by the others, that even though they had a lot of possessions and material things, that Shahiyah Melech b'Mitzrayim, he was still oimed b'tzidka. Yosef HaTzadik, that even though he was a melech and he had opportunities, he was still oimed b'tzidka. That's what we're saying about Yosef. And then again, who Yosef haroya tzayin aviv, that's something that's like a lowly thing, that it was Ra'yə Tzayin Aviv also. So the Shah is, what's the Pshat in Rashi? So I was thinking later on in the Parsha it says, by Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was, it says, Moshe hoya roya es tzayin Yisrei choisnai. Moshe was Ra'yə Tzayin Yisrei choisnai. So the Rishonim Amedayik, it says, Moshe hoya roya. Moshe was a pastor. He was a pastor of Tzayin Aviv Yitzchak. We all know that professions that a person does are not part of his essence. We do professions. We're in this world. We have to keep ourselves going. But it's not a chelik of us. Over here, it doesn't say Vayanayig es Tzayin Choisna Yisrael. It doesn't say that he was the one that was in charge of the tzayin, of taking care of the tzayin. It says, Moshe hoya roya, and Moshe by definition was a roya. What's the pshat that in this profession, the Torah felt that you could define a person by the profession of being a roya. So there's a Merdika ben Ra'yə
Manhigim from Klal Yisrael.
Oh, very good, yeah.
But he's with who is this
it's a definition of who he is. But it's Pasha, that's what they're explaining. So Rabbi Ra'yə says like this: Moshe hoya roya, ochaz Moshe Rabbeinu ha'umnis hazeh keminig hatzadikim harishayim. So we find that this profession was a profession that all the tzadikim harishayim had. Came etzinu behevel hatzadik. Hevel was a roya tzayin. Gam ba'avos ha'olam, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Gam b'shvatim, v'hatam. So what's the reason that our avos were busy with the profession of being a roya tzayin? Kedei sheyisrachik min ha'yishuv shu olol eitzel achet. The reason why the avos selected their profession to be roya tzayin is that they should be separated. They shouldn't be involved and be busy with people, and they could have a hashpah, and they could have this, and like this they could grow in avodas Hashem. So that profession of roya is a profession which by default and its essence is a profession which keeps someone separate for his boydedus. And that's what the pshat is. You see, there's another medrash. The medrash says It says, the Medrash says, Moshe Yeroya Tzayin Yisrei Chaisnoi, Ra Moshe my Losim Shel Yisrael. It says, Vayenagas Atzayin Achar HaMidbar. He took the Tzayin in the Midbar. Zok the Medrash, Merdika Medrash, Ra Moshe my Losim Shel Yisrael Ben HaMidbar. Moshe was masig the Maila of Klal Yisrael, all from being in the Midbar. Shenemar Mi Zois Oilem Ben HaMidbar. Aliyah, you want to have Aliyah in Avodas Hashem, Ben HaMidbar. Torah, min hamidbar. Mishkan, the mile of Mishkan, min hamidbar. Kahuna Malchus, min hamidbar. Be'er, min hamidbar. Anani Kavod, min hamidbar. Lefichach vayenai es hatzoyin achar hamidbar. That means all these miles have to do with midbar. What does midbar have to do? So what the Pshat the Medrash is, that the idea is midbar, you know, the Rambam says, if a person, a famous Rambam, if a person lives in a yishuv where there's a bad hashpah, and he's stuck, it's like the Rambam, you got to pick yourself up and move out of the yishuv and move into a midbar, a place where there's no people that they're going to have a bad influence on them. So the aside is that this midbar, this is this gave them, Zok the Medrash, the opportunity, all these miles, Be'er, Mon, Onan, Klal Yisrael, what it says, Hein Levadad Yishkoin. Ra'yə is the Maila of Ra'yə was that they were this. And you see, it's interesting. This Maila of Ra'yə was the Maila that they find with to be able to be manig the whole Klal Yisrael. That means by being mispaided, by being separated themselves, they were able to be Ra'yə Yisrael, which means that they cared and were involved in every chelik of Klal Yisrael. Meaning, because it says, Hein Am Levadad Yishkoin, Klal Yisrael is one unit. And to be a Ra'yə Yisrael, you represent and you're involved against Klal Yisrael. But the idea is, despite this, they separated themselves from all the outside effects from the Goyim. And with that separation, they were able to grow. So this could be Pshat. So the Gemara says, in Tainus, we learned this Gemara over here, the Gemara says, that it says, there's a pasuk, it says, Va'achid eshalish haroyim b'yerech echad. The Gemara says that Klal Yisrael lost 3 royim in 1 month. So the Gemara says, who's it referring to? It's Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. So the Gemara, it's not true. Moshe was nifta in Adar. Miriam was nifta in Nisan. Aaron was nifta in Av. So it's not in 1 month. So the Gemara says that Miriam, the schus of the Be'er, came because of Miriam. When Miriam was nifta, it was chazra b'schus Aaron and Moshe. And then when Aaron was nifta, the Onan left. And it was chazra b'schus the Onan and the Be'er, and it was chazra b'schus Moshe. And when Moshe was nifta, the Be'er left, the Onan left, and skilu nestalku kulam b'yerech echad, and that's why the pasuk says that it was all in the same time. So the Gemara is a peldik Gemara. When Miriam was nifta, good, the schus of the Be'er came because of Miriam. When she was nifta, we can say Klal Yisrael didn't feel that Miriam was nifta. Why? Because it came back with schus Aaron. We're calling her Ra'yə Yisrael. It says Shalish HaRoyim. They were Ra'yə Yisrael. What's the Ra'yə Yisrael? Means that they were involved in every aspect of Klal Yisrael. Aaron, it says, was Isa Shalom ben Ish ve'Ishtay. When he was nifta, no one Chabti was nifta because the honor which came with Chus Aaron and left came back with Chus Moshe, so no one knew Aaron was gone. That's the only effect the Ra'yə Yisrael has, that they bought the Be'er, they bought the Anan, that we could say that no one felt the difference. What's the Pshat in the Gemara? And Nachashayla L'chayra on the Gemara, if it came, it says Klal came back b'schus Aaron when the Be'er was nifta. When the Be'er left, it was chazar b'schus Aaron. If it came back b'schus Aaron, that means Miriam's chus was gone. So if Miriam's chus was gone, what are we saying that Miriam is still here? No, what's the Pshat in the Gemara? The Pshat is as Havada, this Maila of that they had al Suraya, which we're calling it Shalish HaRoyim. This Maila that Aaron, Moshe, and Miriam had that cool Shalish HaRoyim. This Maila of bringing the Be'er, like the Medrash says, was min hamidbar, and they were royim. It was something exclusively, the Be'er came exclusively b'schus the Maila of Miriam. And only Miriam was able to bring the Be'er to Klal Yisrael. And when Miriam was nifta, it left the Be'er. Chazar b'schus Aaron and Moshe means that Aaron and Moshe took over those Mailas which Miriam had. That's what they took over when Miriam was nifta. When Aaron was nifta and the Onan left, so that Maila that Aaron had, that was taken over by Moshe. So about those same Mailas that they brought to Klal Yisrael, which brought the schus, those Gavaldik Mailas of being Ra'yə, those Mailas were taken over by Moshe, and then when Moshe was nifta, so come to Klal Yisrael lost all those 3 Mailas of Miriam, Aaron, and Moshe, and that's why it was defined as Va'achir Shalish HaRoyim b'yerech echad. Now what's the Pshat Dafka these people, because these people were Ra'yim, and you see what the Medrash says, that to be a Ra'yah You have to have midbar, and that's where the Mila came from. And Aaron, Moshe, and Miriam had this Gavaldika Mila. So Chayra, it was like shout back to Rashi in the beginning of the pasuk. Rashi says that it says Yosef Hayya b'Mitzrayim. Rashi says who Yosef Shaya Roya Tzayinova. What's the idea of Roya Tzayinova? Roya Tzayinova means that Yosef was the Raya. Why? Because he was Roya Tzayinova, that he had that Mila, that he wasn't mushpa b'chlal from what was going on. He was oiches of Moshe Hayya Raya. He was oiches in Yena Mila, that he was totally not mushpa. Who Yosef, that was a melech, and a melech is, the Kamach says there's some words that each word only exists with the other one. In melech b'loyam, a melech is involved with his nation. The only way you have the shem melech is only because you have an and there's no one that's more involved with his nation than a melech. And still, even though he was the same raya that he wasn't mushba from his svivas, when he became a melech, he as well was not mushba from that the Mitzrayim, he was in Mitzrayim, he was Aymed B'tzit.
He wasn't more involved with the than a melech.
He was the same involved, but he wasn't mushba. He was a dayan Aymed B'tzit guy, and the Mela, that was the Mela of Yosef.